Welcome to Direkt Studios. Today we're discussing a major development in Sweden's critical raw materials strategy. The government has granted an exploitation concession for Norra Kärr rare earth project, potentially a key step toward reducing Europe's dependence on imports. Joining us is Kurt Budge, CEO of Leading Edge Materials. Kurt, great to have you with us.
Hello, Matthias.
So how significant is the government's decision to grant the exploitation concession at Norra Kärr for the project itself and for Leading Edge Material as a company?
Oh, it's a transformational milestone for both the project and for Leading Edge. I guess getting an exploitation concession in Sweden is never straightforward. And so to have achieved this milestone really puts us on track for developing what will be Europe's first heavy rare earth mine.
Yeah, and the government suggests a deposit could cover a substantial share of Europe's rare earth supply. How realistic is that potential in your view?
Well, as I've said many times that I'm the CEO of a junior company, and sometimes people may assume that I'm just trying to promote my own company. But the Swedish Geological Survey has made statements over many years talking about the importance of Norra Kärr, both for its rare earths and its heavy rare earths. So when it comes to heavy rare earths, it's specifically dysprosium, terbium, and yttrium. And we've worked with Edison Group this year. So there's quite a lot of research been done on how Norra Kärr compares with lots of other deposits in the world. What tends to happen is people get fixated on total rare earth oxides. And when we talk about the specific applications of rare earths and heavy rare earths that go into permanent magnets, the deposits have the higher proportion of heavy rare earths, which Norra Kärr is one, are the ones that are strategically important. And so when it comes to dysprosium, the research shows that Europe probably uses 200 tons a year of dysprosium and oxide, and Norra Kärr will produce 248 tons a year. So it's entirely relevant in terms of the way Europe is looking to create the resilience in its supply chains that are needed for some of our most important industries.
Mm. And and the decision highlights Europe's dependence on China for rare earths. How strategically important is Norra Kärr in the broader geopolitical context of critical raw materials?
Well, I think the one thing that's certain about geopolitics is that there will be continued uncertainty, and I don't say that flippantly. We're in a period of time where whether or not it be conflict or global trade or whatever it is, new alliances in the future, nobody really knows exactly how global trade will stabilize, so to speak. And so the discussion has been now for several years, and this is not a new discussion, especially with regards to Norra Kärr, because in 2014 there was a report done by the European Rare Earth Competency Network that talked about Norra Kärr addressing this issue of Europe's overdependence on China for heavy rare earths, and China pretty much supplies 100% of Europe's heavy rare earth needs, and that's an unhealthy dependency which Norra Kärr will fix in a large part. So I think what this decision has done is to really put Europe on the front foot with regards to increasing that self-sufficiency.
Hmm. And are you seeing increased interest from European industry players or policymakers now that the concession has been granted?
Yes, to be honest with you, I wish I'd had the exploitation concession in my hand when I was at the Rare Earth Industry Association conference in Frankfurt in the second week in June, because you had all the players in the rare earths to permanent magnet supply chain and the OEMs, the equipment manufacturers, such as the car companies. And at that time, the discussions I was having always opened with, I'm waiting for a mining lease decision from the Swedish government. Now, that in an investor's mind creates a perception of risk. Now I have that piece of paper. We've de-risked the project. We've passed this major milestone. So that really puts us on the front foot with regards to the conversations I can have now. What we see taking place in the supply chain especially, last week, US investments in rare earths permanent magnet supply chain, whether or not that be refining and separation, metallization, or last week, Energy Fuels went and bought, Vacuum Schmelzer, the German magnet manufacturer. So all of this activity is taking place now. So I think having the mining lease in hand really puts Norra Kärr on the map and leading edge as a company.
Mm. And the next step is a comprehensive environmental impact assessment and an environmental permit under the environmental code. How long and uncertain is that process in practice?
Well, I'm quite positive about the next stage in development because there has been so much technical work done on Norra Kärr over many, many years. The technical work really started in 2011. So we're talking about 15, 16 years of technical work, and that's both on environmental matters and other technical disciplines. So we have a foundation of a body of knowledge. And also, when it comes to actually the process itself, the Swedish government is looking at creating a single entity which will handle this next stage of the process. I think, when you are looking to bring critical raw materials into production and then create some of that resilience and that security that we've been talking about, that you're starting to, it's our focus is to work in partnership with stakeholders locally and with the regulators and to see how quickly we can make things happen. So I'm optimistic about timelines. We have always said, Norra Kärr would be in production within 4 years. Now, how that's actually divided up and how it can be accelerated, we're still doing that work, and those conversations are starting now.
All right, very interesting. And from your perspective, what are the key remaining risk or potential showstoppers at this stage?
To be honest with you, Matthias, I want to focus on the positives of getting the exploitation concession today. I think that there are always risk factors with regards to a mining operation. When it comes to Norra Kärr at site, the Norra Kärr site itself is a simple quarrying operation. So technically, there's nothing overly challenging about it. It's excavation and mineral processing. When it comes to the downstream, the mineralization we're dealing with is it's not your classic rare earth mineralization. But again, we have a pre-feasibility study flow sheet from 2015, and there's a lot of work that's been done since then that supported the preliminary economic assessment that was done in 2021. And then when we look at actually the rare earth space and how other regions are looking to secure their needs, one of the largest rare earth projects that's currently being developed is Tanbreeze in Greenland, and that's another eudialyte deposit. So I think, some of those non-believers think that eudialyte cannot be processed, but the one thing to remember is that the only reason it hasn't been processed in the past is because the Chinese had access to other sources being mined elsewhere in the world and then processed through lower environmental standards, whereas we have got a flow sheet to process eudialyte, and we work to the highest environmental standards because we're in the Nordic region.
Let's stay on the optimistic side then. If everything proceeds according to plan, when could we realistically see production at Norra Kärr?
Within 4 years. The bullish me says 3 to 4 years, but I've learned to my in the past that I can be over optimistic at time. But again, if Norra Kärr were in production now, there'd be a market for the heavy rare earth concentrate. This project had a mining lease back in 2013. We've now repeated that step and got another mining lease. We've improved on the project substantially because we've separated the upstream mining quarrying operation from the downstream processing. So that's been done to smooth permitting, because really at site at Norra Kärr in Jönköping and Östergötland, you are now looking at something that is a familiar type of activity to, say, construction materials quarries, or the other side of Vättern, there's a Sibelco quarry. So we're not proposing anything that isn't already happening in the area. So that's, fundamentally, that was the main reason for redesigning the project 5-6 years ago. So we're in a good place.
Yeah, and with the concession now in place, How does this change your ability to secure project financing, and does it significantly de-risk the investment case?
Yeah, I think when we complete the pre-feasibility study, that gives the opportunity to speak to some of those institutions in Europe, such as the European Investment Bank, or say the Nordic Investment Bank in the Nordic region. I think that, again, having been at Frankfurt, there was a lot of interest shown from the downstream, but also trading houses. So, you know, these conversations start now because what people are looking to do is to secure their heavy rare earth supply. It's a key risk to critical industries such as, you know, energy transition related industries, electric mobility, or defense.
Yeah. And if we look at funding, what funding routes are you considering? Equity, strategic partners, debt financing, or potentially public funding from the EU or Sweden?
Well, in the short term, the equity market still remain the immediate source of funds. But I think over the coming months, what you can see with the exploitation concession in hand, the project has been significantly de-risked, and that opens up the opportunity to have conversations with both strategic partners in the short term and people that want to secure the offtake.
All right, and one final question. Looking 3 to 5 years ahead, what would success for Norra Kärr and Leading Edge Materials look like?
Oh, the happiest day for me is when I actually see production and I know that I'm selling something to somebody who's going to pay me for it. So for us, it's a sustainable mining operation at site. It's good local partnerships in the area. It's working with our neighbors and being a local business. And then with regards to the downstream, it's having state-of-the-art downstream processing, midstream processing to either produce an MREC mixed rare earth carbonate product or doing further separation so that we are an instrumental part of the European permanent magnet supply chain. That's really what success looks like to me.
Okay, sounds great. And thank you so much, Kurt Budge, CEO of Leading Edge Materials, for joining us today.
Thanks, Matthias.